Okay, so imagine you're watching your favorite TV show on the couch. And then imagine that, and I know this has probably happened to you, the intro comes on. So, with a lot of TV shows, let's just take The Office, for example, since that's one of my favorite TV shows. So, if I sit down and I watch The Office on my couch and an episode starts, often they'll have what are called cold opens, right? Where you'll have a minute or two where they'll have a scene, and then before they go into the actual episode, they'll play the intro with the theme song and the music. Well, for whatever reason, the sound producers of these shows think that it's a good idea to crank the volume up 27 dB and make it so much louder than everything else in the episode. It's so annoying. I don't understand why they do this. But anyway, when that happens, and since that's the case, I will have to grab my TV remote and turn down the volume when the theme song comes on because it's just too freaking loud. Okay? The reason I am bringing this up is because this is very much the role that a compressor plays. This is what compression is on a very basic functional level. It turns the volume down. On a very basic level, that is what I want you to understand about compression first and foremost. It simply turns down the volume. Now, as we'll get into, and I'm going to start that process in this particular video, there are different purposes, there are different qualities that a compressor does bring to the table. But at its core, really what is happening is a compressor is turning down the volume. Now, the key difference between, say, me grabbing the TV remote and turning down the Office theme song and a compressor turning down the volume of a track is mine is more manual and a compressor plugin is more automated. If we were to make the TV remote analogy be a bit more like actual compression, that would be like bringing a robot in, giving the robot the TV remote, and having them turn it up and down throughout the episode to keep the volume at a consistent place. So that would be one way that you could think about compression on a TV remote. It would be more automated. You would preset the robot and you would kind of design and create a template for the robot to act in accordance to so that it actually does what it's supposed to do. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on from the robots and let's talk about actual compression. So what I want to do now is give you the three core qualities. You could also think of this as the three core purposes of adding compression to specifically vocals, because in this course we are talking about vocals. So the compression, and I'll just mention this here very quickly, a lot of what I'm saying can absolutely be applied to other types of tracks like drums or bass or guitars or anything. But since this is a vocals program, I am just zooming in specifically for vocals, okay? All right, the three qualities that, or the three primary qualities that compression adds when you add them to your vocals, okay? Number one, it balances the volume. It's balanced. That's the first quality. Balance, balance, balance. So instead of the cold open of a show and then the theme song shooting up in volume, because I'd use the remote to turn it down, it's more even keel now, right? So balance, that is a core purpose of a compressor. Number two is it adds smoothness to the vocal track. So you could also use words like cohesiveness or glue. It's just a feeling of there's less disconnectedness, I guess you could say, and everything feels the vocal track, if you put the compressor on a vocal track, it feels more glued together. It feels more cohesive. So smoothness is the second quality. And finally, the third quality that compression brings to the table is aggressiveness. You could also use a word like punchiness. So we have balance, we have smoothness, and we have punchiness. Now, an important point that I'll make here is when you are adding a particular compressor to a particular track, it's most of the time, it's not like it's only going to add one of these three qualities. Often it will be a combination of balancing the volume and adding some smoothness and some punchiness as well, right? So, but the point still remains, it's still good for you to think about the different qualities that compression brings to the table. because it's not just that compression turns down the volume, which it does because it reacts to the track that the compression is being applied to. So it does turn down the volume at the parts of the song where the volume crosses the threshold. So it like shoots down the loud parts. And we'll get more into this throughout this crash course. But so I'm not going to try to get too much ahead of myself, but it is important. And I think it's just really helpful to think about these three almost boxes, the three core purposes of adding compression to your vocals. It is either to balance the volume so that you don't have this and then this and then this. You know, if it's a completely dry vocal, often that is the case. There's too much range from the loudest part to the quietest part. So what a compressor does is it brings everything so that there is less range, so that the vocal stays in a relatively similar place, or a consistent place rather, volume-wise, all the way through the song. So balance the volume, and then there's smoothness so that it just feels more compelling. It pulls you into the song more. And certain compressors and compression settings will help kind of bring that silky, smooth quality to a vocal track. And then, of course, aggressiveness and punchiness. This, especially aggressiveness and punchiness, is the type of compression that you'll hear people use phrases like cut through the mix, have it be super in your face, right? Those types of expressions, when you're talking about compression, you achieve that by thinking of compression as not as much balancing the volume and not as much adding smoothness, but about adding punchiness, about adding aggressiveness and having your vocal just cut through the mix. So you hear this a lot in rock, you hear this a lot in genres where, and even pop too, where the vocal is super present, it's super upfront, and there is sometimes a ton of compression on it, specifically a very aggressive compression. Okay, so those are the three core qualities, the three core purposes: balance, smoothness, and aggressiveness. Okay, and we'll unpack this further as we continue throughout this crash course, but I wanted to give you a baseline, a starting point to understand so that you don't come into this feeling completely lost, and hopefully this gave you some clarity. So before we move on to diving deeper into this, I just want to give you auditory examples. I want you to be able to hear what these three qualities actually sound like. So now I'm just going to go ahead and play before and after of adding a balance compressor before and after, a smoothness compressor before and after, and a punchiness compressor before and after. And again, just to reiterate, it's usually a combination of the qualities, but when you focus more on one than the other, you do tend to experience and feel that quality as being more prominent than the other qualities that you are adding to the song. Okay, so I'll just give you those before and afters, and then we will move on to the next lesson.
I don't know how to fight this, 'cause I'm usually all in, but so indecisive. I don't know how to fight this, 'cause I'm usually all in, but so indecisive. I don't know how to fight this, 'cause I'm usually all in, but so indecisive. I don't know how to fight this, 'cause I'm usually all in, but so indecisive. I don't know how to fight this, 'cause I'm usually all in, but so indecisive. I don't know how to fight this, 'cause I'm usually all in, but so indecisive.